The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me in PAA on this wonderful Tuesday morning. We're having a few technical difficulties on our end, um, but we'll start in about a minute or so. Thanks. All right, it looks like we're good to go. Once again, thank you guys for joining me this Tuesday morning for this month's advocacy webinar. I'm JP Dorval, the Advocacy and Public Policy Liaison for Prevention Action Alliance. This webinar is going to be just your average update, but I do want to introduce an individual who's with us today, uh, Ryan Tufts, who is actually our public policy intern for this semester. So I'm going to let Ryan introduce himself to everyone. Hey, Ryan, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry
All right.
about that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan. I am a student at The Ohio State University. I'm a junior. I'm a public policy major. I'm also the public policy intern for Prevention Action Alliance this semester. And yeah, I'm excited to be working with the organization. It's been a great experience so far, and I'm excited for what's to come. So, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And yeah, Ryan will be helping me and other PA staff with different public policy issues. He'll be helping me with, some advocacy things, and we're working on some stuff for our advocacy boot camp. And if you have not heard about that, I know James Syfax, who's a program manager here at Prevention Action Alliance, sent out a couple notices about that through our Spec and Network. But if you want to hear more about that, just let me know and I can kind of do a quick blurb about it. But he'll be working on a couple things. So if for some reason you get an email from him, that is why, and that's who he is. So I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you. Alrighty, guys. So we are 21 days away from the election. And I know I've flooded everyone's inbox with a lot of voter tips and statements saying that voting is one of the most important ways to advocate and one of the most effective ways to advocate. Voting is important, and we at PAA support that and want everyone who is able to vote. So, just some information for you all here. Uh, if you requested an absentee ballot, more than likely you've received that already. And absentee voting by mail began October 6th. Completed ballots can be dropped off in person at your Board of Elections, and every county has a Board of Elections. And if you need to look up where that Board of Elections is, it's on the Secretary of State's site. There's a link where you can do that. But there should be the return address within the envelope uh, for the absentee ballots. They send you an envelope that you can utilize to return the ballots. So you can return these ballots from October 6th to November 3rd. You can send them back in the mail, but if you prefer, you can also drop them off at a drop box. And currently, there is one drop box per county, and those drop boxes are located at your Board of Elections. So you can drive up to the Board of Elections with the filled out absentee ballot sealed in the correct envelope. You can drop it off. I know there's current litigation out there, and a couple groups pushing for there to be more than one drop box per county. Um, If there is one in your county, more than one, most likely it's just another one at the Board of Elections. However, if you have any questions, please contact your local Board of Elections. If you do plan to vote early in person, you can vote now. That period started on October 6th and it's going to run up right up until November 2nd, which is obviously the day before the election. If you still plan to vote the day of the election, you may vote on November 3rd at your polling location between the hours of 6:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. Now, if you requested a ballot and you change your mind, you see things on the news, you would feel more comfortable voting early in person, you can show up to your Board of Elections with your absentee ballot. Obviously, the absentee ballot would not be completed, but you can bring what they mailed you, show up to vote early in person, and you can cast a regular ballot that day. Now, if you decide on election day um, that you no longer want to vote absentee, you can show up, but that ballot will be a provisional ballot, not your normal uh, ballot. So if you do change your mind or you no longer want to do the absentee option, make sure you show up early to vote during this early voting period. It just makes things a lot easier. And if for some reason you're hearing otherwise or your Board of Elections is telling you something different, you can call the Ohio Voter Protection Hotline at 844 Ohio Vote or 844 644 8683. And they should be able to help you and clear up some misinformation if any is being spread in your area. So let me know if you have any questions about that. But more than likely, the Board of Elections is a far better resource when it comes to answering questions. Remember to bring some ID if you're voting in person. Remember to bring a mask. Uh, Early voting lines this year have been historically long, which is great news because obviously more people are voting. This is a very important election. Um, so please, please, please remember those things. And if you are planning to vote in person, be safe. If you are planning to vote absentee, read all the instructions that they send to you in your envelope. Just at the end of the day, make sure you have a voting plan. Regardless of how you want to vote, make sure you have a plan for it. Continuing on this line, I do have a notice for Franklin County residents. Not sure if we have any Franklin County residents listening in. However, we found out, I believe, 2 weeks ago that a significant number of voters in the Franklin County area were sent the incorrect absentee ballot. Before completing and mailing in your ballot, contact the Board of Elections to find out what needs to be done if you are affected. So the Board of Elections recently posted a list of voters who got the wrong ballots on their site. And it's about 50,000 ballots. So about 20% of the ballots that were sent out were incorrect. Obviously, the Secretary of State is not happy about it. Uh, with all the misinformation and fear mongering that has been spread about this election and absentee ballots, the last thing people want is for there to be an actual mistake. And it looks like for some reason Franklin County managed to fall into that category. Um, Voters who were affected, if you go on their site and you see that you were affected, you should be receiving a new absentee ballot with all the correct information soon. Um, you can wait for your replacement ballot to arrive, or you can show up at your county board of elections to vote during early voting hours to cast an in-person absentee ballot, but at the end of the day, it's going to be just your normal ballot. If you have any more information about this in particular, since it's a developing story, call the Franklin County Board of Elections at 614-525-3100. Moving on, another notice for residents of Muskingum County. Some voters received their ballots in the mail from the Muskingum County Board of Elections with the wrong return envelopes inside. So the return envelopes were addressed to the wrong Board of Elections. This is a much smaller issue as they're forecasting that only 500 absentee ballots were affected. Um, The ballots themselves are fine. It's just the envelopes that the ballots need to be sent back in that they provide to you. Those are the ones that are incorrect. So if you were planning to fill out your absentee ballot and drop it off in a ballot drop box or through the drive-through option, that's fine. You can drop it off using that incorrect return envelope. However, if you're planning to mail it back, just check the address on the return envelope before you mail it back. Make sure that it matches the Muskingum County Board of Elections address, um, and you should be good to go. I know that that Board of Elections is working with other boards of elections in nearby counties to make sure that all the ballots that were sent to those other board of elections accidentally make it back to Muskingum County. So they are working on that. So hopefully there is an issue at the end, but again, verify before you send it out if you're going to mail it out. Safe option is to drop it off so you can avoid that whole return envelope issue. All right. So legislative update. And you guys have heard me talk about that talk about these bills a million and one times. I'm going to keep talking about it until they're all said and done. So, House Bill 160 and House Bill 669 have been delivered to the governor. Just as a quick recap, House Bill 160 was a bill that allowed for alcoholic ice cream to be sold in convenience stores and expanded that alcoholic ice cream industry a bit in Ohio. Now, for us, our concern was there was no language about safety when it came to the containers, and there was nothing regarding having a certain general warning on the ice cream itself. There's no limit as to how alcoholic the ice cream can be. Actually, well, there is, but it falls within the normal alcohol drink limit within the Ohio Code. So, the alcoholic ice cream can be as alcoholic as your average mixed drink from a restaurant, but for some reason, when they originally drafted this bill, there was nothing about a certain general warning or anything like that. So through advocacy on our end, we were able to get an amendment added to that bill to require that a certain general warning be placed on the containers that are sold in stores. Worked hard to get this in. Unfortunately, this was the only amendment that we were able to get in. We had some language on the containers, making sure that they are resealable or more difficult to open, so that they're not your classic foam or paper ice cream pint containers. But we received a lot of pushback from that from the General Assembly, but we were at least able to get the certain general warning in. So that bill was delivered to the governor. The reason why it says liquor laws here is because they added a few amendments that expanded sales in the outdoor refreshment areas in the state. So it went from being an alcoholic ice cream bill to a liquor law expansion bill. Now, the expansion language in this was not too concerning. It was just the change of a few limits here and there. And they ended up changing it again before it got sent to the governor, and it's actually less of that. So that bill has been delivered to the governor and should be signed soon. The next bill, House Bill 669, that was also delivered to the governor. And as many of you may recall, this was a bill that I sent out a couple emails about, asking folks to submit testimony, either written or in person. And we did testify in front of the Senate committee that 669 and 674 are in about these bills and what needs to be changed. So this bill has cocktails to go. And we were able to advocate that the language for cocktails to go, we were able to advocate for that language to be changed so that there is a drink limit. So they have a drink limit of 3 drinks per order. In order to get a cocktail to go, you now need to purchase it with a meal as well, which was not something that was there before, which came from our advocacy as well. We did want there to be an end date, or a sunset is another term that you can use for this, since we don't think that this is something that should be permanent. Unfortunately, the General Assembly pushed back on that. They heard us when it came to the public health provisions, when it came to the drink limit and the food requirement, but they pushed back pretty hard when it came to the end date, unfortunately. So that provision was left in there with those consumer protections added as it was voted out. The next thing that was changed through our advocacy for this was there was some language in there that would allow micro distilleries to ship liquor directly to uh, consumers. For those of you who engage in alcohol delivery at any, you know, in any way in Ohio, currently in state law, you can have beer shipped to your house, you can have wine shipped to your house. But liquor, given it's a spirit, it's stronger, the potential for harm is greater per liquid ounce, or you know, however you want to track that volume. But given that it's spirituous liquor, we have much more restrictive language in our code about how that can be sold. So this bill was trying to open up the e-commerce market for micro distilleries, allowing them to ship it directly to consumers. We provided testimony on that. We were able to get that piece removed, thank goodness. So we were very happy about that. The last thing that we advocated for, that we were able to get some language in on, was there's an language that expanded the sales area for liquor permit holders in the state, allowing them to, if an adjacent property had a backyard, put a patio in that backyard so that patrons can, I guess, socially distance and drink in the back patio. We had a lot of questions about liability because you can expand in both the public and private property. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we did advocate heavily for is for there to be an end date for that, for there to be a sunset. And the General Assembly did hear us on that, so they put an end date of 2022. I'm not quite sure they put 2020. I'm not quite sure why they chose 2022 as the year, but that's what they chose. That's the end date they gave us. And also, there was language in there that only gave the Division of Liquor Control a 1-day notice before the sales area is expanded. We advocated for 10 days on their behalf, and they advocated for 10 days as well, and we got the 10-day language in there. So that bill, that's the way it currently sits, or that's the way it currently reads, and is also going to be sent, or has been sent to the governor for signing. The last bill, House Bill 674, is still in committee, and we were able to testify on that, and our testimony was well received. I actually heard from two different legislators that the testimony we gave and the testimony that some coalition leaders gave in person really resonated with them, and they want to change the bill. So we are currently working with the vice chair's office and also Senator Coonsey's office to get some changes into the bill. But I do want to go more in depth into this since it's still in the General Assembly and there's still an opportunity for advocacy. So let me switch screens very quickly. Okay, so House Bill 674. Here are the sponsors, Representative Hillier, and I'm not quite sure if Representative Becker is still on here as a sponsor. For some reason, other news outlets only have Representative Hillier as the sponsor, but regardless, this is the bill. And I will pull up the analysis for you all here just so that you all can see what's in here. So our first main issue that we have with this bill, and I've discussed this before, is the expansion of hours. So this bill eliminates the Sunday sales liquor permit, so it gives everyone Sunday sales. It also creates a local election option for 24-hour sales and expands last call from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And these last two provisions are done through the creation of a permit, two different permits, while the Sunday sales expansion is done through the elimination of a permit. Now, we all know that increase in access leads to increased harm. So any expansion in sales is something that we do not support, or any expansion in sales hours is something that we do not support. The 24 hours sale option, that permit is something that's baffling. I don't even know why it's in there, but that is something that they've been pushing for. And there's data that shows that 2 a.m. last call expansion actually leads to increased harm. I know California has been fighting pretty vigorously against a similar bill for years now. And we have data on that to support how that is a potential problem. Now, the next piece that we uh, do not like is the outdoor refreshment area language. As you can see, it eliminates limitations on how many doors can exist in a municipal corporation or township based on the population. It eliminates the acreage limits. It changes how many liquor permit holders need to be together for there to be a DORA, or how many liquor permit holders need to exist in a DORA for a DORA to be adopted by that township, and also changes the approvement structure at the local level for DORAs, kind of shifting the authority from the legislative authority, so your city council folks, to the administrative, so your fiscal officer, your executive officer, which is a problem for us. And lastly, there's language on social media that we don't like, allowing different facets of the alcohol industry to market their products or events on social media. Um, Given how nebulous and how uh, hard to monitor social media is, we have a lot of problems with this language. We've advocated for the removal of it. We've advocated for the adoption of regulatory language by an administrative body, the Liquor Control Commission to be more specific. But at the end of the day, all three of these provisions that I pointed out are things that we are advocating to be removed from the bill. And you'll see there are other things in here, things that we don't necessarily have a strong opinion on, or things that don't necessarily affect our folks. But that pretty much sums up where our advocacy is on that bill. So again, it is still in the Senate. So feel free to send a letter to your senator, even send a letter to your representative, um, telling them why that bill is a problematic bill, why House Bill 674 is an issue and should not pass. That is completely fine. If you are interested in submitting something but you don't know where to start, feel free to contact me. Let me know, and I can kind of either show you the way, or connect you with your representative or senator, or we can have a conversation with them, however you guys want to do it. But I am here as a resource. I've been working on these 3 bills and now this one bill for months now. So we want to make sure that if these bills do pass, and obviously we're going up against the industry, so that is a tough ask. But if these bills do pass, that we remove or change the problematic provisions within them, so that the damage that they do is minimal. Um, so I'll wait a second for any questions that folks may have. One individual asked, do I have a white paper on this bill? We don't have an official white paper, but I do have a white paper-esque document that I can send that has research and data. In fact, I'll send it to the group. It's a Word document. It has all of our public health talking points, and why this is an issue. So it is a white paper in structure, or it's similar to one, but it's not an official white paper done by Prevention Action Alliance, if that makes sense. And I can definitely send that. But it is a document that we've been sending to legislators. So hopefully that answers that question. And if people are interested in seeing that, I can send it. Okay, I got you. I will send that. Alrighty. Please let me know if you guys have questions. Send questions through the questions box, but if not, I will move on. Okay. Last thing before we wrap up, I see that we're kind of coming close to that 10:30 a.m. end time. We have new resources on our site. resources that we've recently developed. We're kind of working to restructure our site so that it's more helpful for folks. So just wanted to highlight this for you guys. And again, I will change my screen so you guys can see a live look at the new addition onto our site. So we have a new advocacy page. If you go to the preventionactionalliance.org site and then you go to the advocate tab, you'll see there are 4 sub tabs. You have one for advocacy bootcamp, which I mentioned before. You have one for our priorities. You have one for advocacy day, which is coming up this coming March. And it's actually going to be a virtual day. And there'll be more information coming out about that over the next couple of weeks. And in the early weeks of 2021, and then resources for prevention advocacy. So I'll go to our priorities, just so you guys can see. And these are the priorities that we set out. Whenever we do advocacy, whenever we lobby, these are the things that we're trying to get done. So first, getting a seat at the table. For far too long, the General Assembly has introduced or passed bills without any input from the prevention field, without any input from public health folks, behavioral health folks, but especially prevention. So one of our main goals for the remainder of the General Assembly and next General Assembly is to make sure that we have a seat at the table. That whenever a bill is introduced that involves a substance, that involves behavioral health, even if it's slightly related to prevention, we want to make sure that we're aware. We want to make sure that we're considered, so that we're not reacting as much to bad provisions, so that we can kind of catch them on the front end before it's almost passed out, and then we're having conversations with the Senate president and House leadership to get it changed. It's better for us, it's better for them. So that's one thing that we're trying to do. Next thing you'll see is reducing youth access to substances. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Again, prevention folks know the value of prevention for youth, and how dangerous youth substance misuse can be, and how that can really change the course of someone's life. So that is something that we're advocating to reduce. um, Creating and supporting healthy communities. Again, this fits within the theme that Prevention Action Alliance has been utilizing for a while. It's something that we've been advocating for, but we just want to put that on the site as one of our priorities. Supporting health equity. This is something that's relatively new, but in light on what's been happening lately in the country, in light of all the research about the disparities that are present within behavioral health, within health in general, we want to fight for health equity. We testified on racism as a public health crisis earlier in the summer. This is something that we're going to continue advocating for, making sure that we get equitable health outcomes for all our populations. So that's something that we have on there. Increased and sustained prevention funding. The way that prevention is funded, by the state, I'm not even talking about the federal dollars, I'm talking about from the state, is confusing. And there really isn't a sustained source of funding from the state that we can point to. So that's something that we're trying to advocate for. We want the state to have more skin in the game when it comes to prevention, because it's important. We're tired of reacting to things. We need to be on the front end. And also, we're trying to figure out a way to track or simplify these funding streams so that prevention money is actually being used for prevention. So that is something that we're putting as a priority, and that's something that we'll be advocating for the rest of the General Assembly, the next General Assembly, and onward. And lastly, increasing mental health education across the lifespan. You've heard me talk about the Health Education Standards Bill. We had a webinar solely devoted to the Mental Health Education Standards Bill, which a lot of you had questions about when it came to the efficacy, when it came to the funding, when it came to the creation of that curriculum, and how that interacts with our local control language that's in our Constitution, things like that. But at the end of the day, the fact that Ohio is the one state that does not have health education standards is terrible. And it affects our kids. So that is something that we will continue to fight for. And this goes beyond schools. Making sure our lawmakers are educated on mental health and behavioral health is important. Uh, I'm sure some of you recall the mental health first aid push that I spearheaded last year. And I think we had about 30 legislative staffers who attended in the Senate. And in the House, they did a QPR training that focused obviously more on suicide. But in the Senate, we had about 30 legislative staffers. They all found it extremely helpful. And to this day, we're still receiving compliments and asking when the next session is going to be. So people want this information. Mental health and the issues regarding behavioral health are really at the forefront of everyone's mind, especially during this time of COVID, where we're seeing increases in anxiety, increases in depression. Um, and people want to know what they can do to help. People want to know what the signs are, how they can support each other. So this information is needed. It's just the infrastructure to send it out is still lacking. So that's something that we're going to try to build up, and it's something that the General Assembly uh, can definitely do. So we're trying to fight that they do that, not only for themselves, but for the people of Ohio. So those are the priorities that we have listed out. If you have any questions about the priorities, please let me know. And when it comes to the resources for prevention, things that you guys have seen before, there's a phone script, there's a letter template for a letter to legislators, press release on protecting mental health and prevention funding, all types of stuff. There's a fact sheet on Prevention 101, and resources that you guys can share with your representatives and senators. So this is a great resource that we want to make available to you guys. Again, advocacy can be daunting, but it's not difficult if you know where to start, and if you have the right resources and tools at your disposal. And that's our goal. Our goal is to make advocacy as easy for you guys. And when it comes to legislative strategy and the lobbying, let us worry about that. We just want to take your concerns and your ideas and things that you want to see to help better your communities to the General Assembly to make change. So that is our main goal. And I see that I'm a little over time, so I'm going to wrap it up. When it comes to the white paper or the information on 674, it looks like only one individual requested that. So as opposed to sending it to everyone, I'm just going to send it to them. If for some reason you want that, please let me know. You all see my email. I'm a very easy person to reach. Give me a call, send me an email, and I can send that your way. Um, Again, I'm here to help, so just let me know uh, what you need from me, and I can do my best to help you and aid you guys. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, and I will see you guys next month. Thanks.